At precisely 2:13 a.m., a radar station in the Pacific lit up with something impossible, an aircraft that shouldn't exist. No transponder, no heat signature, no reflection, and yet, it was there. It moved like a shadow over the ocean, and then it vanished. Few will ever know what that operator really saw that night, but in the Pentagon, one name kept surfacing in classified briefings. Radar. In the world of modern warfare, secrets don't stay buried for long, unless they're buried under billions of dollars in black budgets. The B-21 Raider isn't just another stealth bomber, it's the first aircraft in history designed from the ground up to operate in a battlespace where stealth itself is no longer enough. And here's the part the public isn't supposed to think about: the B-21 may already be capable of missions outside anything officially admitted, missions that could redefine not just US air power, but the balance of power on the planet. Before we get to those chilling possibilities, we need to open a classified file that starts decades earlier, when a shadow war in the skies pushed engineers to break the laws of physics, or at least make them bend. Because to understand why the B-21 Raider exists, you have to understand the warplanes that shouldn't have worked, but did, and the enemies that made them necessary. The late 1970s, US intelligence analysts stared at grainy satellite images from deep inside Soviet territory, row upon row of missile silos, mobile launchers, interceptor bases spread like a steel net across the USSR. By the early 1980s, the idea of changing air combat had evolved into something the Soviets could never have imagined: the F-117 Nighthawk. Its faceted, almost alien design wasn't just strange for the sake of it. Every angle was calculated to deflect radar waves away from their source. It wasn't fast, it wasn't pretty, but it worked. In 1991, during Operation Desert Storm, F-117 slipped into Baghdad's air defenses like ghosts, taking out command centers before Iraq even knew the war had begun. The message was clear: the era of radar supremacy was over. But here's the thing: the Nighthawk could only carry a small payload, and it was never built for global reach. The Air Force needed something bigger, something that could carry nuclear payloads across continents, remain undetected, and strike with absolute precision. That something became the B-2 Spirit, the most expensive aircraft ever built at the time, and the first stealth bomber in history. When the B-2 debuted in the late 80s, it looked like it had been ripped from the pages of a science fiction comic, a pure flying wing, smoother than anything that had ever flown before. Its radar cross-section was smaller than a bird's, yet it could carry 40,000 pounds of weapons halfway around the world. But stealth wasn't a magic cloak. As the decades passed, radar technology improved, low-frequency systems, bistatic tracking, and infrared search and track began to threaten even the B-2's invisibility. The clock was ticking. By the mid-2000s, US war planners faced a sobering reality. In a war against a peer adversary like China or Russia, even the B-2 might not survive the first week. The next bomber wouldn't just have to evade radar, it would have to operate in a world where stealth is expected. That meant a revolution was coming. And that revolution is the B-21 Raider. But the B-21 isn't just a successor to the B-2. It's the first combat aircraft built for what the Pentagon calls Day One, any theater, meaning it can go anywhere, hit anything, and come back, even against the most advanced defenses on Earth. And yet, there are whispers that what the Air Force admits publicly is only a fraction of what the Raider can actually do. You can't hit what you can't see, but the truth is, you also can't hit what you can't detect at all. That's the fundamental shift from the B-2 to the B-21. The Raider isn't just designed to be invisible to radar, it's engineered to vanish across multiple detection spectrums: radar, infrared, acoustic, even visual, in a way no aircraft has before. Traditional stealth focused on radar cross-section, shaping, materials, and coatings to scatter or absorb radar waves, but adversaries have adapted, using infrared tracking, passive radar, and data fusion to catch even stealth planes in the gaps. The B-21 attacks the problem from all angles: heat suppression to hide from infrared, composite materials to muffle sound signatures, and even paint designed to blend with the sky under specific lighting. Imagine this from a defender's perspective: your radar picks up nothing, your thermal sensors see nothing, and yet, 30 minutes later, your primary command facility detonates in a single, pinpoint strike. That's the reality. The B-21 is designed to create an aircraft that doesn't just evade detection, it erases the possibility of detection. What's truly unnerving is how little the public knows about the Raider. The Air Force has only released a handful of photos, carefully cropped, always from controlled angles, never revealing the full planform. Even basic details like its wingspan remain classified. It's as if the aircraft has been engineered to remain secret even while being unveiled. Here's what has slipped through the cracks. It's slightly smaller than the B-2, it uses a new generation of radar-absorbent materials requiring far less maintenance. It's modular, meaning its internal systems can be swapped or upgraded without grounding the fleet. It's nuclear-capable and conventional strike-capable. And then there's the unsettling possibility, never confirmed, but often whispered, that it could operate without a human pilot at all. Why would a manned bomber need to be unmanned? One word: endurance. An AI-controlled B-21 could fly longer, push deeper into enemy territory, and take risks no human crew could survive. If true, that means the Raider isn't just a bomber, it's a platform that could evolve into a fully autonomous strategic strike system, and if it already has that capability hidden behind classified walls, the implications for warfare are staggering. The Air Force learned a brutal lesson from the B-2 Spirit. Stealth aircraft can be cripplingly expensive to maintain. Each Spirit required a climate-controlled hangar, dozens of hours of maintenance per flight hour, and an army of technicians. The B-21 flips that equation. It's designed to be maintained on standard bases, even in rough field conditions, making it deployable from anywhere. And here's something that isn't talked about enough: the B-21's existence itself is a weapon. If an adversary doesn't know where it is or when it might strike, they're forced to spread their defenses thin, creating weaknesses everywhere. In other words, the Raider wages psychological warfare before it ever drops a single bomb. All of this sets the stage for the Raider's most chilling advantage: its ability to operate in environments where no aircraft is supposed to survive. And when you see the scenarios the Air Force has quietly admitted it's preparing for, you realize the B-21 isn't just about fighting wars, it's about making certain wars never start. But to understand that mission, and the hidden tests that may have already taken place, we need to examine the first whispers of the Raider in operation, and the strange incidents that suggest it may have already flown where no American bomber has before. The Air Force says the B-21 hasn't yet seen combat, but if that were true, why are there already reports of an unidentified aircraft spotted over regions it was never supposed to be? From the moment the Raider's existence was acknowledged, aviation enthusiasts and military trackers began reporting strange sightings. A silent, wing-shaped silhouette over the Mojave at night.
Behind the closed
Infrared
doors of
cameras picking up an
NorthropGrumman.
object with a heat signature too small for a B-2. Anomalous radar returns over the Pacific, there 1 second, gone the next. One of the most persistent rumors centers around 2023, during a joint US-Australian exercise in the Indo-Pacific. Officially, the B-21 was still in testing. Unofficially, spotters claimed to see an unfamiliar flying wing landing at RAAF base Tyndall under heavy guard. If true, this would mean the Raider was already being tested for operations deep in contested territory, a full year before the Air Force admitted it had even taken its first flight. Because the Raider's mission profile is too critical to wait, the Pentagon's nightmare scenario is a sudden, high-intensity war with a peer adversary. In such a scenario, the B-21's job would be brutal, fast, and unforgiving. Destroy air defenses before they even launch, cripple command and control centers, neutralize nuclear launch capabilities, in the opening hours. This is what insiders call the Day One Strike Doctrine. Most bombers are part of a long, drawn-out campaign. The B-21 is built to end wars before they begin, to punch directly into the heart of enemy defenses while the rest of the world is still waking up. It's designed to make the first 24 hours of conflict so devastating to the opponent's infrastructure and morale that escalation becomes impossible. That's the paradox. The B-21's greatest power isn't just destruction, it's deterrence. If adversaries know it can bypass every defense and strike anywhere on Earth without warning, they might never risk provoking it in the first place. Which, ironically, makes keeping it secret even more dangerous, because a weapon like this doesn't need to be seen to be feared. In late 2024, the Air Force conducted a series of low-visibility drills in Utah and Nevada, flight trackers noticed entire swaths of airspace suddenly blacked out. Satellite images of certain bases were replaced with older stock photos on Google Earth, a known tactic to hide new hardware. And in leaked notices to airmen, there were curious phrases like stealth integration training and hypersonic release testing. The B-21 specs don't officially list hypersonic weapons, but the possibility is enough to make defense analysts sweat. Perhaps the most chilling alleged incident came from a commercial cargo ship crew in the South China Sea in mid-2024. They claimed to have seen a bat-winged shape cruising at high altitude, utterly silent. Minutes later, their satellite comms went down for exactly 17 minutes. When they came back online, there was no trace of the object. Whether these sightings are misidentifications, deliberate misinformation, or genuine leaks, one fact remains. The radar was designed for missions most of us can't even imagine, and if some of these whispers are true, it's already out there. But here's where things turn darker. Because there's growing evidence that the B-21's design might have been influenced by something outside of traditional aviation. Not aliens, not sci-fi, something much more grounded, and far more unsettling. Most people think the B-21 came out of a single project, but that's not how the Pentagon works. The radar wasn't born in a clean room in Palmdale, it's the culmination of decades of black-budget programs, projects so classified that even Congress only sees fragments. These shadow programs run under codenames you'll never hear in an Air Force press release: Senior ICE, rumored stealth UAV prototypes from the 90s, PSR, persistent intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance platforms that allegedly operated in total radio silence, Aurora, the infamous, possibly mythical, hypersonic craft said to cruise at Mach 6, each of these left behind scraps of tech, radar-absorbing composites, thermal suppression systems, flight control algorithms, all fed into the B-21's DNA. In the early 2000s, engineers working on classified drones like the RQ-170 Sentinel developed methods to mask an aircraft's heat signature so effectively it could blend into the background radiation of the Earth itself. When the Sentinel was revealed in 2011, only because one crashed in Iran, it was already considered old tech by insiders. That's the tell: if it's public, it's obsolete, which means the radar is operating with stealth measures we won't see. For another 20 years, officially, the B-21 uses next-generation efficient turbofan engines. Unofficially, there are persistent whispers about variable cycle propulsion, a system that can shift between high-efficiency subsonic cruise and blistering supersonic sprint without detection spikes. Some even claim early wind tunnel tests experimented with plasma flow control, an exotic method of manipulating airflow with ionized gases to reduce drag and radar return. That's still deep in the classified prototype realm, but the timeline matches. In 2018 and 2019, amateur astronomers reported strange contrails over the Nevada test and training range, contrails that started and stopped mid-air, forming sharp angles. One theory: the B-21 was being tested with active electromagnetic cloaking. The sharp contrail breaks could indicate the activation of a field that disperses condensation differently, essentially bending visibility in ways no conventional stealth does. The Pentagon calls the radar a long-range strike bomber. That's technically true, but incomplete. Multiple defense analysts believe the B-21 was designed from day one to operate as an airborne command and control node, a flying war room that can direct drones, hack enemy systems mid-flight, and launch standoff hypersonic weapons. In other words, it's not just a bomber, it's a networked warfare platform. Here's the strangest part: several patents filed by NorthropGrumman between 2012 and 2015, quietly assigned to obscure shell companies, detail systems for drone swarming coordination, low observable communications relays, and high-energy laser targeting. Individually, they seem unrelated. But together, they paint a picture. The radar may eventually control an entire battlefield without ever being seen. When questioned, Air Force spokespeople repeat the same line: the B-21 is built for long-range strike, with unmatched survivability. That's all, no elaboration, no hint of secondary capabilities, which makes you wonder, are they hiding limitations, or capabilities so advanced that acknowledging them would destabilize global military planning? And that's where we get into the most controversial part of the B-21 story: the alleged live-fire mission that no one in the Pentagon will confirm, and why it might already have blood on its wings. It was late October 2023, deep over the South China Sea. Satellite trackers noticed something odd, a large radar gap in Chinese coastal coverage, a 90-minute blackout across an area usually saturated with overlapping surveillance. Officially, it was routine maintenance. Unofficially, that's the window some believe a B-21 made its first operational run. 2 weeks later, maritime AIS data, the automatic signals ships send out, recorded a ghost contact appearing and disappearing on 3 separate Chinese warship systems. This wasn't random interference. Analysts say the signatures matched the pattern of active electronic warfare jamming, the kind you'd expect if a stealth aircraft was blinding every radar it passed over. 3 days after the incident, a senior USAF general made an offhand comment during a press briefing. "Our latest assets can be anywhere, anytime, and you won't even know they were there." It wasn't tied to any question, he just said it, then smiled, and moved on. The biggest clue came from a single Chinese Type 052D destroyer. For 8 hours, its navigational lights were off, communications were cut, and its crew was unreachable. When it came back online, Chinese state media ignored the blackout completely, but US defense forums were already buzzing. One retired pilot claimed the ship had been electronically painted, a targeting lock, for hours without detecting the source. If the B-21 was involved, what was it doing there? Some think it was just a deep penetration reconnaissance run, others believe it deployed a classified, standoff weapon, something that didn't explode, but disrupted systems. A cyber warfare payload, perhaps. Something capable of slipping into naval networks and sitting dormant until needed. After October 2023, satellite watchers noticed a sudden clampdown, the usual trickle of mystery aircraft. Photos from bases like Edwards and Whiteman dried up completely. If the B-21 had been tested in real-world conditions, that would explain it. Too many eyes had seen too much. When asked point-blank, the Pentagon gave a one-line statement: the B-21 remains in its testing phase and has not been deployed operationally. But for those familiar with past programs, the State Route 71, the F-117, that statement reads like déjà vu. Both of those aircraft saw combat years before the public knew they existed. The timing is suspicious: radar blackout in October, warship comms failure, cryptic USAF statement, sudden media silence, individually, explainable, together. They form a pattern that looks a lot like a shakedown cruise for America's most advanced bomber. But if the B-21 has already flown combat missions, the question becomes, what exactly is it capable of in full war footing? And how much of that capability has been quietly withheld from even our allies? In peacetime, the B-21 is a ghost. It avoids confrontation, slips in and out unseen, and feeds intel to commanders. But in a full-scale war, that stealth turns predatory. Its onboard AI could coordinate simultaneous strikes across multiple countries, directing drones, missiles, and cyber assets in real time. Whispers inside defense circles suggest the Raiders' weapons bay is already cleared for AGM-183 ARRW hypersonic missiles, even though the official line says testing is in early stages. If true, that means it could launch a Mach 5+ weapon from thousands of miles away, hitting hardened bunkers before enemy leaders even know it's airborne. Analysts believe the B-21's real strategic purpose may be to execute a decapitation strike, targeting enemy leadership, communications, and nuclear response infrastructure in the opening minutes of a conflict. One Raider, alone, could hit 30+ precision targets on a single sortie. Not all kills come from explosions. The B-21. Somewhere tonight, above a sky you think is empty, a shape could be moving silently at 500 miles per hour. Invisible to your eyes, silent to your ears. Unknown to your radar, and if you could see it, you might understand why the world isn't ready. Because the next generation of warfare isn't about how much firepower you can unleash, it's about how close your enemy can get to losing, without ever realizing the war has already begun.